Story 1. Once upon a time, I attended a timeshare presentation because they offered money to go. Yes, they were all high-pressure sales and questionable by nature, but during this particular presentation, I noticed exactly how they were going to take advantage of everyone involved. I read the contract carefully since I was there anyway, and it made their salesperson quiet while I read. Hidden near the bottom was a mandatory cleaning and maintenance fee that was about half the rent of a modest apartment at the time. This fee could be adjusted by them at any time, with no stated limits. Fortunately, they provided a shuttle to pick up people and take them to the timeshare presentation location. There were about 15 of us in one of those small shuttle vans with seats that faced each other. We started chatting on the way back, and I pointed the claws out to everyone in the group. Story 2. My wife is a huge fan of home design shows, especially one called Dream Home Makeover, which will be important later. One day, she picks out a rug for our dining area. It's called the Jeanette, yes, they name rugs, and we order it for around $1,500. When the rug arrives, it has a label on the back that says the Samuel. I think we ordered the wrong item, so I search for the brand and the Samuel. I find it on an online furniture store for $300. This can't possibly be the same rug, can it? I take a chance and order it from the online store. When both rugs are in my possession, I do a side-by-side comparison. They are the exact same rug. Basically, these designer brands are buying products directly from vendors, changing the name, and charging 5 times the price. Fast forward a few months. She finds a dining table on the website of Studio McGee, the creators of the Dream Home Makeover show. I do a reverse image search on the picture of the table and find it on a random furniture store's website for 1/3 of the cost. Now I realize these designers are nothing but glorified resellers. Story 3. I found an empty lot with barely visible no parking signs next to an automated teller machine. Tow trucks would wait just behind the building for someone to park there. The person would park and walk around the corner to use the ATM. Upon returning to their car, it was already hooked up, and the tow truck driver would unhook it for a fee conveniently obtainable from the ATM. You'll never guess how I learned of this scam. It's been years, but I'm still enraged when I think of it. Story 4. I had a job interview with what you would now call a multi-level marketing company long before they entered mainstream consciousness. The interviewer spent the whole time discussing hustle culture, emphasizing how hard you have to work to succeed, that it's all about your network, and that you need to be a go-getter. He insisted that I better earn that commission and repeated these ideas frequently. I am a fiercely introverted person who wasn't very self-motivated at the time. When I was called into the one-on-one meeting with the interviewer, I couldn't help myself. I told him I was a bad fit and that it didn't sound like it was for me. To my surprise, his tone instantly changed. He started saying it wasn't that hard, that you could work less and still make a good living, and praised the generous commission structure at lower levels. This was the exact opposite of his earlier attitude. That shift made me realize it was a scam. They didn't care about my skills, drive, or personality. Whether they took a hard sell or soft approach, all they wanted was for me to buy in. While I didn't fully understand the scam, I knew it had to be a bad idea. That's the only interview I've ever walked out of partway through. Story 5. I worked for a month as a pharmacy clerk. The price disparity in health insurance is extreme, especially for items like insulin. Story 6. This is a little niche, but it fits. Part of your car is the suspension shock absorber, usually one per wheel. It works by moving a piston with holes in it through an oil-filled cylinder. One end is attached to the chassis, and the other end is connected to the suspension. If you go to your car and bounce the fender so the chassis moves down, compressing the spring, the chassis will usually move up and down about 1.5 times. It is the shock that slows it down. If the shock is broken, the suspension will bounce multiple times until friction in the pivots finally bleeds off the energy. In a racing context, the shock has a significant influence on handling, and what matters is the force curve the shock produces as it is cycled. That curve must be matched to the suspension to achieve maximum grip. I'm simplifying a lot. I actually wrote a book that goes into much more detail. I'm trying to keep this easy without disappearing down a technical rabbit hole. Racing shocks can be very expensive, but most manufacturers do not disclose the curve the shock makes. So I got a shock dynamometer which measures shocks and provides the curve. I started testing shocks. What I discovered was a litany of horrors. Aside from a couple of reputable brands, most shocks were of poor quality. I don't mean they produced the wrong curve. That's more of a tuning issue. I mean things like 4 shocks with the same part number, supposedly identical, producing 4 wildly different curves. Adjusters that did nothing, worked backwards, or controlled the opposite of what they were supposed to do. One set of very expensive Super Tuna shocks had one of the pistons installed upside down. I shared this information widely, and nobody cared. People still spend money on inferior products because they believe that if it is a racing part and it's expensive, it must be good. Story 7. Any form of roof-installed solar that is not paid in full at the time of installation is problematic. This specifically refers to 20 to 30-year solar leases and power purchase agreements. These arrangements can be deceptive and prey on unsuspecting customers. Companies may claim that they represent a great investment for your home and that future buyers will appreciate them. This is misleading. Very few buyers are willing to take over the remaining years of a solar lease. Ultimately, you may end up paying off the lease at closing, which can exceed $50,000. In reality, the solar panels should have cost less than $10,000 if purchased from a reputable company. Additionally, these systems are often poorly designed and do not significantly reduce your electricity bills, making the $50,000 expenditure essentially worthless. In fact, it may cost you more to remove them whenever roof repairs are needed. There is also a risk that the solar company that sold you the lease may go out of business, leaving you without support. If another company acquires the leases without taking on the service warranties, you remain responsible for the payments, regardless of whether the system is functioning. If you stop making payments, a lien could be placed on your house. It is advisable to avoid payment plan solar options. Traditional solar, which you pay for in full upfront, is a more sensible choice. Payment plan solar options are often scams. Story 8. Most glasses, especially those from an eye doctor, can be expensive. However, one can find frames and lenses online for about $30. There is a large company that inflates prices in most physical stores. Story 9. Subscription services for basic applications are the ultimate scam. Paying monthly for features that used to be a one-time purchase feels like the biggest modern-day ripoff. Story 10. When I witnessed my first cryptocurrency rug pull, I realized that much of the industry resembles a giant casino, where the key is knowing when to exit a coin. Very few cryptocurrencies provide real utility, and most are not used for legitimate purposes. The primary function seems to be facilitating money transfers across borders without detection by banks and governments. Story 11. Mobile gaming has been designed for psychological engagement for about a decade. It provides just enough satisfaction initially, but keeps players wanting more by placing content behind paywalls or long timers. Achieving goals without spending money on in-game currency is nearly impossible. Mobile games are fundamentally crafted to be addictive and extract money from players. Despite this, many continue to play them. I no longer engage with mobile games and haven't for years. Story 12. Anyone remember the whole honey situation from about a month or 2 ago? That made me realize that it was a load of nonsense. Story 13. For-profit universities were running recruitment companies. They would provide a list of jobs for which you were nearly qualified, then offer classes and certifications to help you secure those positions. Training programs, such as those in docketing software, cost thousands of dollars for just a few hours. Later, the school was acquired by the University of Phoenix. Story 14. About a decade ago, Reddit was popular for discussing safety razors, the old-fashioned twist-open type that uses a single blade, similar to what your grandfather might have used. Eventually, I decided to try it out because of this. Now, I spend less on shaving per year than I used to spend on a pack of razors for a week or two. There is a lot of discussion about plastics, lobbying, and advertising that convinces us to consume more plastic. I wish I knew more money-saving tips like this. The return on investment is almost immediate. Story 15. Factory outlet stores. The products sold in these stores are not the same as those found in their retail stores or other retail outlets. They are rarely excess inventory or discontinued product lines. Instead, they are low-quality, cheaply made versions of their products specifically created for factory outlet stores. I wonder if they contract with companies in China that have been caught making counterfeit goods? Story 16. Non-fungible tokens. The whole idea seems nonsensical, yet a few individuals have made substantial profits, leaving some unsuspecting people at a loss. Story 17. Celebrity awards are all purchased. I knew they campaigned for the Oscars, but I did not realize that you can purchase things like the NAACP award or the Pat Tillman award. Story 18. The first time I saw a kid do a spit take with a Mr. Beast bar and then reach for some gummy candy from another YouTuber just 2 seconds later, while I begged them to pick a normal candy brand, I realized that the YouTubers and TikTokers selling cheap products were going to take over the world. Story 19. Finding out who sponsors influencers reveals that the largest sponsors of clean content are cleaning manufacturers. Makeup videos are sponsored by makeup companies, while tradwife and farm life videos are supported by far-right media groups. It is all a scam. Everyone is being paid behind the scenes to promote specific products or lifestyles. TikTok is essentially just watching short commercials with less transparency. Story 20. Weddings can be incredibly expensive and often have long booking times, which may seem unwarranted. Story 21. Sports betting. While most people understand that the house always wins, many believe there is a way to succeed with sports betting as if it differs from playing craps. Most individuals do not really grasp how casinos operate, and online platforms may ban you or limit your bet sizes if you demonstrate any ability to make informed bets. Some individuals get banned even while losing because their expected value for bets is significantly higher than the norm. You will not be permitted to continue winning even if you could maintain that success. If you are allowed to keep betting, it typically means you are losing. Story 22. In 1994, I was in university and had a post office box because I moved frequently and lived in shared houses. It was a great idea, by the way. I disliked having to change my address on all my bills every time I moved. One day, I received a letter in my post office box from Nigeria. It was the Nigerian prince scam, claiming they needed help getting millions out of the country. I needed to fax them to organize it, but I must have realized it was a scam because I didn't even bother following up. So it was the Nigerian email scam before email existed. Story 23. I worked one day for an environmental fundraising initiative. We went door to door asking for donations, receiving 25% of all contributions. If someone donated $100, 25 went to us. We were instructed to tell people that 91 or 92% of donations went to the actual cause, which suggests we were being asked to mislead donors. They also targeted affluent liberal suburban communities, claiming they were the most gullible. It seemed their charity name changed frequently. Do not donate to untrustworthy charities. Story 24. The house building industry is interesting. I recently bought a new house and was encouraged to use the builder's preferred lender. After some research, I found that this lender was a subsidiary of the home builder's parent company and typically sold the loan to another bank shortly after closing. This practice is common. The initial lender often offers a rate that is cheaper for them, then sells the loan to another institution at a slightly higher rate. The builder must make a significant profit from selling the loan, as they offered me a 7% discount on the home price if I used their lending company. I researched the property's history and discovered that the development was purchased 15 years ago from another company for around $50 million. Interestingly, that company, which is no longer in operation, was also a subsidiary of the home builder's parent company. They bought the 35 acres 25 years ago for only a few $100,000. I wonder why they sold it to themselves for a much higher price 10 years later. My guess is that they aimed to inflate the land's value. During the design process, they asked if I wanted upgraded ceiling fans for $1,500, 3 fans total. I checked and found the exact same model for $200 each at a home improvement store. The house came with baseboards featuring a lot of curves, which are no longer in style. The alternative, a simple straight piece of wood, cost an additional couple of $1,000s. The default light switches were flip switches, which are also outdated. Rocker switches are currently preferred and they required a $1,000 upgrade. These rocker switches were the same price at a home improvement store. The builder was offering some outdated items as costly upgrades, even though they did not actually cost more to produce, in order to encourage buyers to spend extra money. Story 25. Carbon credits have been a topic of interest since 2007. I began asking tough questions and received unsatisfactory answers, which made me realize how easy it was to manipulate the system. Years later, the Nature Conservancy was exposed for double-selling credits, which was one of the critical questions I had raised. The response from representatives of carbon credit companies was essentially that as a large corporation, they could be trusted not to commit fraud. My reply was a reference to Enron, which made the representative uncomfortable, leading her to end the interview shortly after. Story 26. This is a very niche situation and might not even be a scam, but I play Pokemon Go and recently downloaded an app to help with raiding. My boyfriend, who had used the app longer than I had, pointed out that the accounts inviting us were all level 30 with nearly no Pokemon caught, and they were all using the default avatar. He also noticed that after the raid, the accounts didn't even catch the raid Pokemon, which you can see in their last caught Pokemon on your friends list. We then realized that they weren't catching the Pokemon because they weren't participating in the raid, thus saving their raid pass. You receive 1 or 2 free passes a day. Otherwise, they cost about $1 each. This led us to realize that the company that created the app had also made numerous bot accounts to artificially inflate its usage. You wouldn't download an app without available raids, and if you're not already on the app, you wouldn't be there to post your own raids for others to join. By creating all these bot accounts, they created the illusion that people were using their app, encouraging real users to join and post their own raids. I also noticed they offer a premium service, where you pay around $15 per month to avoid waiting in a queue to join a raid. I could see paying that once for a time-locked regional raid, then forgetting to cancel the subscription and repeatedly getting charged without really noticing because it's only $15. Then we noticed the company name is Tiny Whale, and if you're unaware, whales in gaming refers to a small percentage of users who spend the most money in the game. So it seems like a pun indicating that mainly whales would use their app. It was interesting figuring everything out in real time, but typing it out feels pretty boring. Story 27. Resort fees. A below-the-line tax that inflates the cost of staying at a hotel. It allows hotels to advertise one price while charging a higher rate. This practice harms the hotel industry. It should be illegal as it constitutes false advertising. Any fee that is not optional should always be included in the total price. Story 28. I had a too-good-to-be-true feeling about streaming services pretty early on. When interest rates started going up, I thought, oh boy, here come the advertisements, price increases, and a drop in quality. So far, 2 of those predictions have come true. Time will tell if the quality remains good over time. Story 29. Software as a service models are designed to provide stability. Users prefer software that they can learn to use effectively over several years, rather than experiencing frequent updates and format changes. There is no reason why you should not still be using Microsoft Word Millennium Edition. Story 30. Companies are posting job openings, but in reality, these positions are often listed merely to demonstrate that the company is growing. I believe this is a way to manipulate their stock values. Fake job listings make it much harder to find genuine employment opportunities. Story 31. About 13 years ago, while looking for work, I found a secret shopper job that turned out to be a multi-step Western Union scam. I wasn't deeply involved, but I received a fraudulent check in the mail before I took any action. I attempted to devise a scheme to cash the check, but ultimately decided to shred it. Story 32. In graduate school, I had an amazing economics professor, Dr. Looney, who passed away. If we had a few minutes left at the end of class, he would typically hold an Ask Me Anything session. One classmate asked about gold as an alternative to protect against money printing. His response was, "If my dollars are so evil and your gold is so good, why would you ever trade your gold for my dollars?" A second student asked about private equity investments. He mentioned that he is offered them all the time. They are always can't miss and guaranteed wins, but for some reason, They always require my money. If the deal is as good as you say it is, why would you ever want to let me get most of the profit? Essentially, most alternative investments are scams. Story 33. Extended warranties are the biggest scam. They make you think you need it, but when you actually try to use it, they say, "Oh, sorry, that's not covered. What did I pay for then?" Story 34. I used to play a game called Eve online. I don't play anymore, but I learned a valuable lesson that has changed how I see life. Everything is a scam. Story 35. It is entirely designed to lure you into making connections that will be restricted unless you constantly post content on the platform or use their premium services. The job offerings are less than satisfactory, and the notification settings are designed to overwhelm you with unnecessary updates or keep you uninformed about your own posts. Story 36. Many years ago, I was convincing my partner to cut the cable or satellite cord. I explained that it would be much cheaper. As I continued, I realized we would only be paying for a few channels we wanted. It dawned on me that we would eventually end up paying more because we would subscribe to multiple services. We did it anyway, and here we are. Story 37. Super high-end jeans are made in the Northern Mariana Islands. As a United States territory, the brand can claim its jeans are made in the USA based on that technicality. These contractors making $500 jeans are producing them in the same factories as Walmart-branded jeans, which sell for about $15. Story 38. Private health insurance in Australia seems to be a scam. I remember when I had surgery on my nose. It had been broken during a high school fight. 10 years later, I finally had surgery to fix it at a small private hospital. When the bill came, it was $2,200. This was 30 years ago. They asked for my health insurer, and I told them I didn't have one. They took the bill back while I was still at the counter and halved it. I ended up paying $1,100. Considering that I also did not pay for health insurance for a decade, I came out ahead. Story 39. I am not sure why modern nursing care facilities and homes are not higher on the list. Some are good, but they can cost $10,000 per month or more. Most others, unfortunately, do not meet expectations. Additionally, these facilities often drain the savings of older citizens until they have nothing left, then push them to Medicare and subsequently bill the government at a higher cost due to the additional work involved in using that system. It seems to be a total scam that allows larger corporations owning hundreds of these small facilities to make billions each year. Story 40. CPAP machines should be available over the counter, similar to hearing aids. Mine works well, but obtaining it and dealing with medical distributors is a frustrating experience. Story 41. Subscription-based services raise concerns. Why am I paying Amazon to purchase items from them? The movie selection is poor, and while I might save on shipping if I make a purchase one month, I still pay for the subscription even if I don't buy anything or watch a movie for an entire month. Story 42. New phones each year that aren't significant improvements, with software that becomes outdated long before the phone itself is obsolete. Story 43. What about not owning anything? Rent your house, Netflix, Prime, HBO, etc. Not your movies? And even cars, pay a monthly rent and drive a car that is not yours? Story 44. The technology sector is in need of a transformative revolution similar to the Industrial Revolution. However, many recent developments have failed to live up to expectations. The Internet of Things, blockchain, and artificial intelligence are just a few examples. While social media is one of the most successful technological products, it has come at a significant cost to our society. Story 45. Pool stores test your water. You bring a sample in, and a poorly trained employee tests it in a poorly calibrated machine, which gives you inaccurate results so they can sell you $100 worth of chemicals to add to your pool that you might not really need. Then they tell you to test again a week later. Not only is that probably too long between tests if levels aren't great to begin with, but now you need $100 more in chemicals to correct what the previous round did to your water. This cycle repeats all summer long. Buy your own set of reagents in a test kit from Taylor or TF Test Kits and visit Trouble-Free Pool's Pool School to learn the basics of pool chemistry. It's honestly not hard at all, and once you get used to it and manage your levels, it's less time-consuming than driving to the pool store and back. It's also much cheaper. Full disclosure. I make an app and partner with a website in this space, but I'm not linking it here since this post is not intended for promotion. Use whatever app or no app at all you want, but save yourself the time and money and manage your own pool. Bonus information. Pool stores often want you to avoid choosing salt water for your pool, especially when a builder is affiliated with a pool store. They know it's easier to maintain, which means fewer trips to sell you chlorine and other chemicals regularly. Saltwater generators are totally worth the upfront cost. Also, bleach is the same as chlorine. As long as you aren't buying some special laundry bleach with additives, it's all the same, just different concentrations. Years ago, a pool builder told us that bleach would cause problems with reproductive organs and warned us never to put bleach in the pool, instructing us to buy it only from the pool store. Maybe they had seen people mix up regular chlorine bleach with additives and wanted to avoid that confusion, but this, combined with many other red flags, made me assume they were using fear tactics to profit from us. Story 46. Health insurance, like most other types of insurance, involves all consumers contributing to a collective fund. This total amount is always significantly higher than the healthcare provided. If your premium seems like a good deal, it likely is not. Either your employer or a taxpayer-funded program is covering most of the costs. I cannot understand why insurance should be for profit. Insurers do not provide health care. They act mainly as gatekeepers, taking our money, skimming profits, and complicating the process of covering some portion of medical expenses. Story 47. Corporations that obtain tax credits by using diverse vendors aim to drive business to small, veteran, or minority-owned companies, fostering growth and competition across various industries. However, most companies work through a third party to channel their spending with a slight markup. This practice makes it appear as though the spending is done through a diverse organization. In reality, they are still utilizing the same vendors they have always used, effectively creating an accounting loophole. Companies gain tax credits to offset the additional costs and can claim false prestige. Many vendors now establish their own subsidiary companies to qualify their expenses as diverse spending by creating entities in the names of owners' family members and directing invoicing through these entities. This approach does not enhance competition or growth, especially for those groups that would benefit the most as intended. It's a manipulation of the tax system with significant loopholes. Major corporations frequently engage in this practice, and large service providers are exploiting the system with subsidiaries. An example is Sodexo compared to Sodexo Magic. The partnership with Magic Johnson allows Sodexo to generate more revenue, despite much of it being passed through spending disguised as diverse spending. Story 48. I have started seeing many coffee importers who simply label their products as owned by veterans and sell them. I am not sure if it is a scam, but it is definitely a new industry. Story 49. I'm sure this is a lazy answer, but literally everything. Once I graduated with a degree in public relations, I could spot public relations stunts from miles away. Just about everything you see. Whether it is a band doing something dangerous or a mother sharing a sob story to promote her multi-level marketing scheme, it all feels scammy. Authors these days buy thousands of copies of their own books upon release and have them shipped back to their homes, where they repackage and send them out to stores to resell. That New York Times bestseller was not selling anything. Story 50. Artificial intelligence artwork and writing emphasize the artificial aspect while minimizing the intelligence of both the creators and the audience. Story 51. Aromatherapy involves marketing perfumed chemicals that are promoted as healthy and therapeutic for your home. This sector of the chemical industry has no obligation to test products for long-term exposure or harm. They have funded misleading research claiming that inhaling these chemicals is more beneficial than breathing clean air. Additionally, they have established multi-level marketing schemes to encourage stay-at-home housewives to sell these products to one another. Story 52. Multi-level marketing companies, even the more legitimate ones with large corporate offices like Mary Kay and Avon, are scams. They have been around for a long time and have infiltrated multiple consumer product industries, with most products being low-quality items packaged attractively. Many of these products are imported from overseas, including cosmetics and solutions. The entire system is predatory against their own salespeople, who must invest in catalogs and products in hopes of converting consumers into sellers. Back in 2009, I learned that Avon uses market research teams to analyze data on their sales teams and consumer groups to determine which product lines sell best. They craft catalogs to upsell products that do not sell well but are high-profit items. Most of these products cannot be sold in stores because retailers would be blamed for their poor quality. Vector Technologies, known as Cutco, has had sales representatives at Costco, but I am unsure if they are still allowed there since there is a new CEO. I have always been aware of multi-level marketing companies and can recognize them easily, as they typically require some form of buy-in and usually come from someone you knew years ago. One particular person I knew in high school sent me samples of their product, which I forwarded to an organic chemist from my pharmaceutical days. He confirmed that most of the items I received are toxic substances that cause skin inflammation. Although they may seem to eliminate wrinkles, they primarily irritate the skin. Long-term use can lead to necrosis and other serious complications. But the entire multi-level marketing industry remains unregulated by the Food and Drug Administration, as products are marketed as minerals or vitamins. This leads me to my next point. The entire vitamin market is dubious. Most minerals and vitamins can be obtained through food or naturally produced by our bodies through various mechanisms, such as vitamin D from sun exposure, vitamin C from consuming acidic fruits and vegetables, and B vitamins from various foods. The vast majority of vitamins we consume, whether from multivitamins or individual supplements, are not fully absorbed by the body and are typically excreted. If you are deficient in certain vitamins, these supplements can be beneficial, but only if you are genuinely deficient. Even then, you will only absorb a portion of the vitamins you consume. The industry is also largely unregulated, meaning claims on product labels regarding actual consumption can vary between manufacturers and products. Story 53. I had pet insurance for my dog for about 7 years. Every issue that arose with him was not covered, including dental and heart problems. I ultimately decided to put the money into savings instead. Story 54. Luxottica makes nearly all the designer sunglasses and eyeglasses you can think of and owns the stores that sell them. They also own the companies that manufacture prescription lenses, produce anti-fog and anti-glare coatings, and provide optometry services. Additionally, they own the companies that make the necessary equipment. Brands such as Oakley, Ray-Ban, Gucci, Prada, Chanel, Sunglass Hut, Sears Optical, Pearle Vision, Chrysler, Optifog, and Essilor Instruments are all part of their portfolio, along with many others. They hold approximately 80% market share, essentially creating a monopoly that allows them to dictate pricing for the entire market. Non-Luxottica brands can be as much as 1/10 the price for the same product. Story 55. A significant portion of the art world revolves around value inflation scams. Not all aspects, but many. Commission a wealthy friend's child to create a piece, or purchase a piece for approximately $2,000. Have your friend appraise it for about $25,000. The artist sells other pieces to other wealthy friends of their parents. Because their sales indicate success, the piece you commissioned is now valued at around $100,000. Use the artificially inflated market value of that painting as collateral to borrow money from the bank. Live off the borrowed funds or reinvest in property. This creates a buying power of $100,000 for an initial investment of $2,000. Story 56. The for-profit university college system. Not that it wasn't obvious to begin with, but I had never given it much thought. How did I find out? I was offered a really good job at one of them, and within a few weeks, I was like, wait, what is going on here? Story 57. The service fee scam. You see a price, think you're getting a deal, and then at checkout, a bunch of mysterious fees appear out of nowhere. Concert tickets, processing fee, ordering food, convenience fee. Even some hotels now have resort fees for things like using the pool, which you didn't even touch. It's like companies sat down and said, how can we charge people more without actually raising prices? And we all just accept it. Pure David robbery. Story 58. You can see it in my post history, but live entertainment in the premier theaters in the Midwest that typically host traveling Broadway shows is an absolute disaster. There are groups that claim they will put on a Polar Express live show with prima ballerinas, singing, dancing, and a complete production. They will charge $40 just to get in. Then they will hire 5 local kids to wear overalls and dance a little. But they won't sing because they don't have the rights. They will sell goodie bags for children and try to make it seem appealing, only to provide them with a bag of Oreo minis and an empty mug for hot chocolate, selling it for $25. I actually got the local news to cover a story on it. It is an entire industry where many groups claim to be performing a certain production, only to bait and switch to something else because they don't have the rights. For example, an orchestra playing the soundtrack from The Lord of the Rings won't have any rights, so they will say they are playing music inspired by that soundtrack. Story 59. I bought a 256 gigabyte micro SD card from Amazon a few years ago. It turned out to be an 8 gigabyte card that was counterfeit after I contacted SanDisk about it. They informed me that the serial number was fake and that it was not a licensed SanDisk product. I paid the 256 gigabyte price at the time, which was around $100. After returning it, I did some research on the seller and discovered that there are numerous sellers on Amazon and other online stores offering counterfeit merchandise. Story 60. Fine art portrait studios often attract clients with a misleading contest for a small piece of art, then manipulate their emotional connection to family to encourage purchases of larger sizes. These larger sizes are excessively priced. While the studio may incur costs of around $200, they sell for up to $10,000. They employ aggressive sales tactics and exploit your love for your family to extract money from you. I knew someone who boasted about obtaining $2,000 from a homeless woman, even though her family pleaded with her to save the money. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.